Hello and welcome to Merlin Leadership Unplugged. The reason I wanted to create this podcast is to show everybody that leadership is accessible, achievable, and something that everybody can do in their lives if they want to. In this podcast, we will focus on sharing some amazing stories from inspirational leaders, both within Merlin and outside, and stories that will help us all connect and relate with that journey. I hope you find this a great learning opportunity, that you enjoy listening to these stories, and that you can see that anybody can be a leader if they choose to. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to another episode of Merlin Leadership Unplugged. Today's a unique one, and one that I've been thinking about for the last 3 or 4 weeks since we booked these lovely guests that I'm going to introduce in a minute. It's a very personal and close one to my heart. It's one that I think a lot of people will connect with, and it's one that really highlights the magic, the support, the love that this business gives its employees in an active, actual, practical, daily way. So I hope you all enjoy it. I have with me Steve Blackburn and Konrad Halabuda.
You got it right.
Spot on.
Spot on.
Yes. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for coming in. In your finery, looking amazing. Shall we start with some intros for those of you out there in the Merlin world or the wider world that don't know you? So, Steve, tell us a bit about yourself.
So I'm Steve Blackburn. I'm a New Openings Director. So I've been doing that role for quite a while. I've been in Merlin for 22 years. Spent a lot of my time in London, Chessington, Madame Tussauds, Vienna, and now in New
Vienna.
Openings. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's a cool place to work.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
Did you take like a boat to go to work?
No, but I mean, it was a great place to work. What an amazing experience. Yeah.
Amazing. And Konrad?
So I'm Konrad, and I work in the digital resorts team as a digital product manager. So I look after the single web platform, so websites, and just been here 14 months, and just really excited where things are going, and yeah, really happy to have joined.
Where did you join from?
I used to be in Bridgend College, so I used to run all the digital stuff there, and I was there for 8.5 years, so yeah, it was good.
Wow.
Yeah.
A different environment to a college then?
Very, but same principles.
Yeah.
You know, with everything we're doing with the group and stuff, so
Yeah.
which I'm sure we'll touch on.
You say you look after the website. Is that the Merlin external website?
So basically, So we got, it's called the single web platform, SWP. So every website that somebody will go to book, I try and do talking with the e-com teams and try and make enhancements. So the main project that we've been doing is excitement, trying to make things, you want people to be excited when they go to a website. We're in this digital age with Instagram and TikTok Reels, so when somebody lands on the website, I don't want it being boring, we want it being flashy, in your face, because you want people to get excited to book.
Yes.
So that's been my project since joining, and Touchwood has been really good.
Fabulous. Exciting times.
Very, yeah. So I've been getting really stuck in, and great support from all the teams as well. So
Nice.
yeah.
Thank you. I met you, Steve, for the first time at the Alton Towers conference.
Yeah.
Almost a year ago, in June 22. What year are we in? Yeah, June 22. And I met you because Graham, my boss, spoke about a colleague that I need to be introduced to that I don't yet know, and that we might have shared experiences in terms of outside of work and our families and our children. And then we started talking, and then at the same time you spoke, or the Intel group was kind of being set up. And for those that haven't yet discovered what the Intel group is, can we say a bit about that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So
what do we do?
I mean, it was about a year ago when I was having conversations with a couple of people internally, Emma Pankhurst and Sandra Sheehan, and we were talking about everyone who works for Merlin. There's lots of people who have lived experiences of those with disabilities or accessibility issues, and I was talking about my child quite a bit, and they said, look, would you like to join this group called the Internal Intelligence Group, where we will provide intelligence to Merlin and our attractions to try and improve accessibility. Turns out I'm now chairing the group, which is a great experience. We started with about 7 members pretty early on, you guys included, And then in December we produced a video where we told our story, which was amazing, really good opportunity. And that has since led to the Internal Intelligence Group just becoming a real major thing. I think we've got over 30 members globally.
That's amazing.
So that's 30 team members with lived experiences of those with disabilities or have disabilities or accessibility issues themselves. So we've pulled together a beautiful little community. Even yesterday, a couple of new people introduced themselves, and those messages were deep and important. And it was nice for those people to be able to have a place where they can share some of their own experiences, because it's not easy going through what most of us go through. And now we've got a really cool place where we can get together, we can have each other as support, but also now we are providing really, really good intelligence to the company. And everyone in Merlin has been so amazing in terms of the reception we've got from the group. And there is not one person who hasn't who's come up to me and doesn't see the worth in it. Every single person sees the worth that we're bringing to this. So yeah, the Internal Intelligence Group is set up to provide intelligence to Merlin, because we have those lived experiences. We know how difficult it is to go out on a day out, and how difficult it is to go and visit an attraction. And so anything we can do to provide intelligence to improve our guests' day and our team members' day, then that's what we're there for.
Yeah. And I think since it's been set up, there's been a lot more coordinated interest in how can we be even better? What
Absolutely.
can we do to improve our services? One of the things that we did on Friday was that call with the Midway attractions in London, and they were looking at specific questions around accessibility, sign language, a lot of things that we didn't necessarily have sort of that group to coordinate and answer, and I know we didn't have all the answers for their questions, but we found people who knew other people who could get us to the solutions. And there's an amazing power in that happening in a big corporate where every single one of these members has a full-time job.
Yeah.
So this is an additional parallel thing that we're doing.
Absolutely, yeah. And you're right, every single person on the group has a full-time job, and we're busy. You know, there's lots going on at the moment, but every single person's giving up their time to provide the intelligence. And you're right, the call with London was great the other day, because we got to tell some of our stories which will improve the way our guests come and visit our attractions, and the way our team are trained to look after guests with additional needs.
Yeah, and how they approach it.
Absolutely.
What has been for you, Konrad, since you joined? You're like just a bit over a year in Merlin, and this group exists, and you've become a member of it sort of a few months in. How did it feel, that first call, that first introduction when you came into the group?
Quite nervous, if I'm honest, because I'm new to the company. So, you know, and Merlin, like you said, being such a big group, you know, of different pockets, you know, the learning curve from going from somewhere where I knew everything in the college to here with all the different areas, different resorts, things like that was really mind-blowing, you know. So, but I think after the first meeting, I then got contacted by Sandra for Legoland UK, because they were doing an autism little project for the staff, and I thought, well, I'll use some of my digital skills and do a video. And I had a video picture with Hunter Stimmin. And
Hunter is your son?
Hunter's my son, yeah. So, 11, turning 15 by his attitude, but it's okay.
Pre-puberty hormones in the household. We can do another podcast on that alone.
But it was so powerful that people would message me on Teams, and I think when you just said about power, you know, the power this Intel group has now, it's almost just giving out someone a hand to hold while they're working. Yeah. You know, and then soon those resorts and midways will be able to run with this. And that's all just from talking and a little bit of, you know, guidance. And so that's really powerful. And I'm all about trying to get people together to do that. You know, it's because it's important. That's why when we first got the diagnosis, I was like, well, this is it. You know, I got to do something. So that's why I started doing all the autism awareness campaigning in Wales, and did my TED talk, which was really good. Doing another one soon. So I've been asked to go back, and people want to know about the story.
Yeah.
If that gives just someone just a glimmer of hope, then I'm happy.
Yeah, and it's processing from the stage of diagnosis to getting to the stage of I know enough to be able to start supporting my child in the way that they need to be supported. It's like the biggest change curve personally I have gone through in my life.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you. I mean, for Daisy, did you know quite quickly? Was a diagnosis something that came up early on, or?
No, not really.
Okay.
So I mean, we had the twins. We had Daisy and Lily, and I think instantly we knew there was something not right, because they're supposed to be identical twins and they weren't identical. So I think we just had a feeling. We didn't like
even visually. You mean?
Yeah. And the way she cried was very different. It was more like a bark than a cry. It was really strange. And then she missed all of her milestones. So she was a really difficult baby. Wouldn't eat. Wouldn't sleep. Still doesn't sleep. And because she never sat up, she just couldn't. We could not get the child to sit up. So we tried and tried and tried. And we persisted, and I think we were really strong in that persistence. I think most people probably would have given up thinking there was no hope, but finally she sat up. And I remember I was travelling, I was opening one of our attractions, and my wife sent me a video of her sitting up, and oh God, I was in tears. I was a mess, but so that was
good.
That was
Mess.
great.
Happy mess.
Really happy. Yeah. So that was good, and then we got Daisy's diagnosis, which was Phelan-McDermid syndrome. Mm-hmm. So she's missing a small piece of chromosome 22. That's all it is. We got that diagnosis in February 2020, and then we went into COVID lockdown. So the NHS was non-existent really for us. They had other things to worry about. So we went through about 9 months with having this diagnosis and then no
Not
support,
much to do.
nothing. If anything, we just had to Google what it was. And with her syndrome,
that little
they all
labyrinth.
present very differently. Yeah. So then, you started questioning anything. Some of them were she'll never walk. And again, we persisted. We made her stand up and try and take a step. And we're trying to do this with a child who can't communicate, has learning difficulty. So, for her, she doesn't understand what we're trying to do. But we stood her up every day over and over again. And then she took her first step. And again, it was just one of those amazing moments. And now she walks. She walks, and we were persistent in making her walk. So she does walk. She feeds herself with her hands, which is a messy affair. But she's incontinent. She needs 24-hour care. If you just took her to an attraction and let go of her hand, she'd be gone because she can't communicate. She doesn't know where she is, but bright colours attract her. So she wants to go off and explore, yeah. And we've been having conversations recently, with the kids on Easter half term. I think she's really missed school. She's really engaging at school. She's doing really well.
I really found that.
And so for the last couple of weeks, she's been quite frustrated. You can just tell it in her.
The routine is lacking.
Yeah. Routine is so important.
But again, she doesn't speak, so you just have to just look for every single cue. And you're right, you don't get trained for it, so it's a whole change to your life.
Yeah.
There's no instruction book. That's the biggest thing I took away from it is when you got the diagnosis, there wasn't suddenly this, right, your child's got this syndrome, so here's all the things you can do. You just have to do it yourself. You have to find out, you have to speak to other parents, and you have to speak to other people in the group.
Yeah.
And you guys are a few years ahead of me yet. And in the whole, when she's 10, 11, 12, I don't know what that's going to be like. And it's a constant fear for us. And so it is a worry. How do we deal with that in later life? But the one thing we do say to each other, my wife and myself, is, every time we've hit an obstacle, we've come through it, and we'll continue to come through it because you have to. But that's one child. We've got Lily, who's completely neurotypical, quite just an average.
The other
average
half
child.
of the twin.
Yeah, the other half of the twin. Yeah, and she's in normal mainstream school. She still wants to do the things mainstream kids do.
Go to parties, have friends.
Yeah, she wants to go out and have a day out, and 9 times out of 10 it becomes all about Daisy because we've got to look after her. We've got so we try not to forget that Lily's just a little girl and just wants to have a life like a little girl, albeit she's 4 years old and she is a full-blown carer. You know, she looks after her sister. She supports us as parents whenever we need anything.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she's great, and she keeps winning awards for compassion at school at 4 years old, which is beautiful. You know, and we're really proud of both kids, really.
And is there another member en route?
Yeah, en route. Yeah, within the next few weeks. Yeah, there's another little girl coming into the family. So, you know, God willing, she's all happy and healthy, and it's beautiful for Lily. In later life, she has a sister she can communicate with and talk to. But Lily's still hopeful about Daisy talking. Constantly says, one day she'll talk. And
well, it's interesting because you mentioned all these like medical diagnoses that said she's not going to do this, she's not going to do that. And then the amount of stories in my network and in groups that I've taken part in, and my son attends a specialist school, so we have the usual mums WhatsApp and you know have our little rants on a Friday whenever we need to. The stories that I hear is the doctor said this, we just went and proved them wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
The midwife said this, or you know, and we just proved them wrong. And I love hearing those stories because the differentiator is a set of parents that just didn't take no for an answer and just went and persevered anyway, right? Yeah. So it's beautiful that they said, oh, forget it, she's not going to do that. And you were like, well, try and stop me.
But I mean, you do the best you can for your kids, right?
Yeah.
And again, that's a lot of us in the group have all been through this and experiencing the same thing. And, you know, we had, some emails yesterday about some life-changing issues that people go through, and they still come to work every day. They still worry about making sure all of our guests come into our attractions and have fun, also knowing what they have to go home to every day, and what they have to think about every day. It's an amazing thing to be part of, really.
And it doesn't stop. Like it's not like I'm at work and that has stopped existing. It's ongoing, right? It's always on the back of your mind.
Yeah, it is. It's really... you touched on a good point, though, about talking to other parents, and I thought that was key. So when we had the diagnosis, it was just like...
When did you have the diagnosis?
When Hunter was 3, so quite early.
It's very similar to us.
And because we were getting told he was naughty in nursery and all this, and I'd be like, come on, Hunter, that's not right.
Wouldn't sit in a queue.
Yeah, and then this one lady noticed he was playing with the water till he was blue, and she said... you should talk to a doctor about...
Pediatrician.
That's it. So they did that, and we had the diagnosis 2 days before his 3rd birthday. And then it really opened my eyes. Like all of a sudden, when we were going through that process, I felt guilty because, when I was going to nursery to pick him up and I was getting told he was being naughty, like, come on, you're not having this, you're not, that's naughty. And then, literally, a year and a half of guilt hit me because I was like, well, he wasn't. He was just trying to communicate.
He's different.
Yeah, but different, not less, like they say.
Yeah, he's different.
So then I vowed from that day, I'll never, I'll always just, what's the word, try and be supportive wherever I can. With
not judging him, not, telling him off.
But it made me think about other things I've seen, like when I was in school, and, and loads of different things. So it was quite interesting, because going back to what you said, talking about parents, so we thought, me and my wife, we're quite out there and dynamic and a bit wild. We were like, well, we've got to do something. So we started our Autistic Wales on Facebook and started, where we go places, we asked them if we could do little reviews, and then we used to hire out just a local leisure centre and get parents talking. And that's how I found where I could really find out, because like you said, looking at Google, things like that, you don't know what you're seeing. But when you're actually talking to other people and finding out about their experiences. And I remember this one lady said, for me, it's always about picking the battles. Because Hunter would have his iPad when he's eating, or use his hands when he's eating. And I was like, well, he's eating, so what's the problem? Yeah. And that's when, we started this journey trying to just raise awareness on it, because in South Wales it's pretty rubbish. There wasn't much going on.
In terms of support mechanisms,
shows, they were non-existent. But then I got in contact with the Welsh Autism Show, and we did a setup up there and talking to people, and that's how the talks I do started, and it really steamrolled. And yeah, I got to be a governor of a school, got to be a governor of college to help steer. So it's trying to use that passion I got and that everyday living to try and help others is key. And but it is hard. You're right. Like you say, work. It doesn't stop.
It's an ongoing
thing. It doesn't
thing.
stop, and you do think about things. You do think about, like yesterday when I posted in a group, Hunter Stimming. I want I know I'm not the only one who was having that type of thing. So it's nice just to share in our group, and you get any comments, things like that, and it's like, come on, let's go, let's do it, and get your hat on and do it then, isn't it? And
have you spoken to him about autism?
Yeah. So from day one,
he knows the word, he knows what it means.
We didn't want to shy away from it because you just got to know, isn't it, really? Because there was times in one of his schools before we changed schools, you were like, Daddy, the kids don't want to play with me because I do this, I do that. And I was like, well, Hunter, because and I say to him, because you're autistic, and your brain's wired a little bit different. I said, but, you might be socially still into Paw Patrol, but academically, you're like a scientist, So, so we've embraced it.
Paw Patrol is great.
Oh, yeah. Marshall's crazy.
Sorry.
I love it. I'm a total Marshall guy. So
Paw Patrol is the bomb. Why not?
But like kids, when he was in school before we moved him, were like, oh, Fortnite.
Yeah. They're more into like teenage stuff.
Yeah. So that was quite difficult and a little transition. But then, like I said, me and my wife were quite artistic. So we started making him T-shits. Autism and Proud, and so if we went to a play centre,
he would wear that.
He would wear it. And we did work with Swansea State Football Club, and he was the poster. So then if people saw him and recognised him,
they knew,
and that was like that's the marketeer in me. So I've been in this like digital world for 20 years.
It.
So we used to do loads of stuff like that, and it helped. Because when you're in a play centre and it's quite busy, bustling. It's really...
It helps them manage and it helps him as well.
Yeah.
When you do go out, and it's in a place where, there isn't maybe the things that you would ideally like to be there in terms of the structure, the noise levels, the music. I don't know about you, but since I got my son's diagnosis, I'm a lot more conscious about noise levels.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether, that is just me being aware for him or old age or whatever it is, but I'm just like, this is loud. Yeah. This soft play is extremely loud, or this place is extremely loud. And obviously there's things you can do, like he's wearing his ear defenders, there is Zen sessions we can go where it's much quieter. But before you go, is there that anxiety of, very subconsciously, I don't know what the hell I'm going to see, what I'm going to have to cope with. I feel like for me, every time we go somewhere, I'm constantly thinking, do I need to have a plan B? What is plan C potentially looking like? Do you do that when you go out with Daisy?
Yeah, I think it's not a normal day out. You just don't grab a bag and go. Like you grab a bag, Daisy's special wheelchair, chair, sometimes a feeding chair we have to take because we don't know if there's going to be high chairs or high chairs that'll fit Daisy. We plan every single detail. 9 times out of 10 we have to drive because we've got so much stuff, so we don't take her on public transport, which is a shame because Lily likes riding the train, right? So it's a shame that she doesn't get that experience. And then when we're out, 9 times out of 10 we're looked after as well as we can be because we've done the pre-planning and we've thought about it.
And you've informed them? Do you tend to let them know that?
Absolutely, yeah. But I mean, at the same time, then I've also changed Daisy in the middle of a room because they don't have the facility. So you just have to take your 4-year-old child and change her in front of people because they just don't have the facilities in place. So it doesn't always work out, but most of the time we go to places we know we can take her because they've got the facilities. Other places we actually just don't take her because, and that's the hardest thing I think, is you want to go out on a family day out, but then you have to leave your child at home because it's too difficult. And you can't take her to some of those places. We took Lily to go and see Frozen in the theatre didn't take Daisy. How could we take Daisy? She's not going to sit still for a couple of hours. So she has to stay at home, and it's heartbreaking for us. Those first experiences we don't get with both kids. So yeah, a day out is a planned day out where you've thought about every detail, or you don't go, and that's not easy.
And it's a constant kind of decision making process.
Absolutely.
Because of the other child who's neurotypical and wants to do all the 4 or 5 year old things. You're constantly having to assess the situation.
Yeah, and I think that's why this group is so important, and talking about accessibility is so important. So thank you for the opportunity to come here. I mean, just the ability to talk about it, to provide intelligence to the attractions who can and want to make a change and make their attractions as accessible as possible, is why we're here to support. And that's why we all do it as a side part of our job, because we know how important it is to those families who want a day out, and we can provide it if we get it right.
Yeah, and we're learning in the process as customers and Merlin employees.
Absolutely.
I was having a chat yesterday, another podcast chat, and we were talking about this sense of belonging. And my story is that I've worked in 2 previous organizations, and it's not something they did or didn't do, but I don't think I was quite ready to talk about Michalis in those previous 2 organizations, because I was going through my change curve and everything that came with that. Yeah. Testing, genetic testing, a lot of things that are involved with, we've had a child, there's a diagnosis, what do we do next, and everything that brings. And the story I shared yesterday was that in my first ever interview, I shared that my son is autistic in my interview with Merlin 4 years ago. And I said, and for that reason, flexibility is key for me. And there will be times where I need to go and do his annual review for 2 hours. Yeah. I hate annual reviews. There will be times where he's got an urgent medical appointment in London, and and the answer was just phenomenal and supportive. And at that stage, I didn't even know I had the job or not. But it was so important for me to say, if I'm coming in, this is the whole me, and I need to know your stance. And I was like, I went back in the car and I thought, first, I shared it, what happened there. And second, I shared it and I don't even have the job. So there was something in that interview that made me feel very, very comfortable to go, this is the whole me. Yeah. Like, I'll come to you first because you're kind of the latest addition to Merlin. Did you feel that?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So Zach was talking about Merlin as a whole and stuff. And
Zach's your boss, your manager.
So Zach Ragg, wicked guy, love him. Really supportive. Yeah. So this I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for the support. But I think from the interview there, we started talking about life, and I said, look,
this is my life.
This is my life, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, my son expects me at this point at the school. And we changed schools, so his school's 40 minutes away from my house. Yeah. I said, I will work my hardest, I will do anything, I won't let a project fail, but I need to be at that spot. And so we ended up having 3 interviews, because then he gave me a task to do. So again, didn't even know if I had the job, so I had to do the task.
But you shared it.
But I shared it. Yeah. And even though I do share, I wear my heart on my sleeve, got it tattooed there, that's my motto. It felt relief, because I think for me, I was right next to a school in the college, literally 5 minutes. So I really wasn't looking to change, but like going back, we did the Merlin match. So I'm just going to rewind a little bit, but so we wanted to always try Legoland because Hunter loves Lego.
Before you joined Merlin?
Before I joined. So this was around about 2016. Mm-hmm. But I was like, I don't know, it's a long trip,
how is it going to be?
Exactly. And then we heard about Merlin Magic Months. We thought, what if we get the tickets?
Did you apply for tickets for the Magic? I love it.
And the photos we got, it was just amazing. And then...
did you go to the sensory room?
Yeah, then we did Brick Week.
We could live in sensory room whenever we go.
It's so amazing. And the staff are just so in tune with it, which is really key. When... like the evenings when they come down singing, and he had his ear defenders on, and the staff member was like, come over here if you want to dance, and it's not so loud. And it's just little things like that
that make the biggest difference.
And it hits you right here.
And to the parent, right? Because your child is taken into account rather than ignored.
This is key. Exactly. And so I ended up doing like this TED, but every photo was Legoland. And my wife Stacey, who I love to bits, gotta say that, she said, "Well, this Merlin contacted you, and that, they Legoland, think." And she goes, "Your digital skills and everything would be amazing. You'd be silly not to." And after that first interview, I felt really comfortable to talk about it.
Yeah.
Second interview, I did this project, and the way me, Zach, and Melanie Becker were talking in this interview, all over Teams, but I could feel the passion and the power, and here I am, and absolutely loving it.
It's a great addition to Merlin.
Yeah.
How was it for you being in the business for so many years, and then the twins arrived, and you had your career, you were kind of growing, and you've got 2 kids overnight, and then after a bit of a time, you get this diagnosis. How did you manage that?
I think the same. I mean, look, we this company, we've got such an amazing culture. I've got so many friends and people I talk to. My boss, Micah. Hi, Micah. She's the most supportive person in the world, and she's been on that journey with me most of the time. So she is great at supporting me and my family if we need doctor's appointments. Exactly what you have. Because of Daisy's syndrome, we have an eye doctor, we have a hearing doctor, and they can't discharge her, which is really crazy. They can't discharge her from her care because she can't answer the questions. Can you hear that sound? Even though we know she can hear, they will never discharge her. So we still have to go to the eye doctor. We still have to go to the hearing doctor. She has physio. She has gastric appointments. She has her occupational therapist appointments, her general paediatrician appointments. And if it wasn't for Micah and my team being so supportive, it would be impossible. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely wouldn't have been in this company for 22 years if it wasn't like that anyway. And everyone on the group, I think it's important we talk about 2 things. One is every single person on the Intel Intelligence group who has their own issues for themselves or outside, with some other lived experiences. Not one person has said their line manager is not supportive. Every single person's got a supportive line manager, which is great. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is we do some amazing stuff already as a company for our guests, sensory rooms, and making sure we're making rides as accessible as possible, making sure we're putting subtitles and sign language in different areas. We're already starting from a really good base. I think what we're trying to help with the group is how do we become the world leaders in accessibility when you're visiting attractions, because we know how difficult it is. And so we keep pushing that.
As
that
customers,
agenda,
we know it as customers, right?
Absolutely.
Every time we go somewhere, the planning we have to do.
Absolutely.
The positive intent we have to assume from the other side.
Yeah.
The plan Bs and Cs we have to have in our back pocket just in case.
Yeah. And it's the fact that those days out become so much more important as well, because it's family time. It's amazing to have those experiences where you can try and be a normal family, and fine. I love it when teams interact with Daisy and try and communicate with her, and it makes a massive difference. And it's those memories that we get to take away versus the rest of the day-to-day life that we all have to go through. And again, for Daisy in particular, I change her 5 or 6 times a day. She's 4 years old. She's strong. She's heavy. So that's becoming more challenging. She has a special bed which you have to zip her into, because again in the night she wouldn't just lie down and go to sleep.
She might fall.
She would just get up and keep walking around. She doesn't know when to switch off. So she gets zipped into her bed, and we've got a routine. But again, people don't realise even that bed, it's a specially made safety sleeper bed. It's £4,000 for that bed, which luckily the council have supported us in purchasing. And then it's £190 a sheet for her bed sheets, which is it's crazy cost. And again, if we can, as as a company, as Attraction, provide a really amazing day out where it's easy, it's not difficult, there's not lots of barriers and things in the way, absolutely, completely inclusive, then it just makes the day out just so much more important. And it gives you that break from the day-to-day stress that
it makes
you have.
it a core memory, doesn't
it?
It's the memories that you will all have as a family.
Yeah.
It's the breather from that second full-time job that you have as a parent anyway.
Yeah.
All parents have a second full-time job. It's called parenthood. But then the added layer of navigating disability, additional needs, neurodiversity, anything that might come up with that, on top of the full-time job, a day off is gold dust, right? Yeah. So anything that can make it a proper day off without worry or less worry or seeing your child smile for a minute or two, it's gold dust, right?
Yeah.
And you were telling me in one of our chats that because of Daisy's condition, it's so difficult to go on holidays, like go on a plane, and we just don't. I mean, the one time we took her away, it was pre her diagnosis. I think the kids were probably 10 months, 11 months old. We were away for 7 days in Spain. 5 days we spent in intensive care with Daisy. We didn't think we were going to bring her home because we didn't have the diagnosis. She got a stomach bug, and she can't regulate her temperature, and she already has gastric issues because of her syndrome. Wow. So, we took her to hospital in Spain in intensive care. I carried her in limp and floppy, really, and they managed to bring her back round, which was great. But even then, I think the doctors were saying, this kid won't sit up, and we were like, we know, we're working on it, but we don't have a diagnosis. But ever since that, I feel like we've had PTSD myself, like our family, because we just won't go on a plane and go away. It's just it's too traumatic. We're scared something else is going to happen, which we will get over. We know we will get over. But that's why a day out for us is a holiday. It's a break from normal life. It takes us out of the norm, and so it's just not easy. And that's the one thing we try and convey in the accessibility group is it's not easy to have this all day in, day out, where you're completely responsible for someone else, and so the days out are the important things. How in all of this, the requirements from a child with additional needs, how do you make sure that you don't forget about yourself? And I ask this as somebody who I preach it and I teach it in my courses and my facilitation and when I coach other people, and I really, really had to train myself to do it during our journey as a family. So we got officially diagnosed in 2016, but unofficially I kind of knew many years ago, if I'm being brutally honest. And it's only recently that I've started. I'm doing therapy weekly, and that's my kind of self-care way. And I'm into my yoga, but I think of all these parents that kind of put the child needs above everything else, and how sometimes we just need to be reminded to not forget about ourselves. In the nicest possible way, because if we are not healthy and well and functioning, how can we provide everything that child needs and go above and beyond and go through the sleepless nights and just cope, just bloody cope. So what do you do to keep sane?
Me, I've been playing this year I've been playing basketball for 40 years, so every Thursday my basketball group. That's why we need to have a chat with Scott.
You and Scott talking basketball. That's another podcast.
Well, I'm a big Sixers fan as well, so but with me it's
sports,
basketball.
That kind of outlet.
2 hours a week, every week without fail, and it just gives me that release, a bit of banter with my
brain
mates,
space,
and then sometimes picking up the control pad, a bit of Xbox now and then. And now Hunter's getting into like playing on the Xbox and stuff, so
you can compete.
Yeah. Well, I never compete with him because he's got to win all the time. I've learned that he needs to win, and if he doesn't,
we have the same issue.
Literally.
Even when we get something wrong on homework, there's tearing of pages, and
so
he cannot cope with the feeling of being wronged.
Yeah, and he's had great school reports since we've moved schools. Oldcastle in Bridgend, everybody there is phenomenal. But he's like, we'll be talking, he'll be like, I did have a bit of a cry because I was frustrated about doing this. And it's just like, and I try and say, there's other things to worry about. Yeah. You're really doing well, You're
healthy, you're learning.
Yeah, but and it does sometimes, I'm just like, and I am an emotional guy, because it's just, I feel so blessed to have him after everything we went through. And even with the diagnosis, it's that little, like you said, it's breaking that obstacle and getting back on your path and going forwards. And it's really, but basketball's
that's your outlet.
That's my outlet, yeah.
And we need to pitch for a court somewhere in a Merlin attraction.
Yeah. My 45-year-old knees, though, don't like it on a Friday.
We'll work through that obstacle when we get to that. What do you do, Steve?
I love spending time with my family. And as difficult it is, that is also how I relax. Like, it's nice to play games with the kids and make them smile. So I enjoy that. But I think when we put Daisy to bed finally and we close her door and we know she's safe and she's going to take herself to sleep, like, I just feel myself relax instantly.
Shoulders drop.
I'm not a carer for that instant, and I can just relax. She's safe and I can just do what I want to do. And similarly, fine, I love jumping on my Xbox, but I like just watching TV, but not like documentaries and things that bring us back to the normal world. I like things that are not in the normal world.
What's in the not normal world?
I mean, we were just talking about Star Trek,
Star Wars, Star Trek, Lost, all just lots of different things. Lots of things that don't make you think about your normal day-to-day life, I guess. But I mean, that's mainly it. But then also I've got a Peloton, so I love working out. I'm really enjoying that. Been enjoying that for the last couple of years. And now we're doing the Merlin 1,500 mile challenge with everyone. Please donate to celebrate 15 years of Merlin's Magic Wand. So even that's just giving me focus, gives me a reason to get on the bike and go for a ride, and you can switch off and just focus on yourself for a minute, which is really important.
Yeah. When you think about sort of the kids' future and what's coming and all that, what is your biggest worry? So I was reflecting on this in the train, and it goes to show how different autism is depending on each case, right? So our biggest development area is communication, verbal communication. So we're doing a lot of speech therapy, but everything else is on the neurotypical scale, which is really strange, right? You said about Hunter that his academic ability is amazing, and then it's more kind of the emotional bit. So every child is different. But one of the things I was thinking about was, going into teenage life and the hormones and the emotions and the change in the body and everything else. And I just see a very different personality to my baby boy 2 years ago. I see a man in the making. I see, what did I try to do for him this morning? Grab his bag and put it in the car, and he got so annoyed. It's like, it's my bag and I own it, and you need to know that by now. And I was like, okay, I was just trying to not miss the school bus, but okay, message received. Feedback is a gift. And I was thinking, wow, like there's a changing personality, a man in the making, with all the other needs that he might have. He still has a very strong personality that the world needs to accept the way he is. And then it got me thinking about, the future and everything else. And I thought, no, you need to stay in the moment. You need to kind of one day at a time. But does it ever come to you in that way? Do you ever think, what's next?
No,
what do I have
try
to
and stay in the moment, like you say. Because you can't control what comes next. Yeah. So I've always just, almost like you said, when you put, and you go, she's asleep, and you're like, I just think, I don't want to think about it, because I think it'll worry me even more. Yeah. Even though I know he's going to be fine, because me and my wife and my family will support him no matter what. I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm the same. I say to my wife quite a bit, when she's worrying about the future, I say, we got to get there first.
Let's get to that.
We've had so many close calls with Daisy anyway, once when we were away, And then a couple of months ago, she was in hospital. The first internal
you
intelligence
were on the
call we
call,
did,
yeah.
she was in her special bed in hospital because she had got tonsillitis.
And again, drugs don't work.
Yeah,
Fever doesn't come down.
she can't tell us that she's got a sore throat. So by the time you know, it's already too late. And at that point, she was starting to get dehydrated. Her tonsils had near enough closed her throat, so they couldn't put tubes down, so we couldn't get liquid in her. Again, with her syndrome, she's got quite small veins. And then when she's dehydrated, obviously that makes it worse. So they tried 2 cannulas in each hand, 2 cannulas in each elbow, cannulas in her feet, and eventually that's called an anaesthetist and put one in her wrist. And the kid was like a pincushion. And so we try not to think about the future because it's scary. Like I don't know. I don't know what it's going to bring. So we just try and live in the moment exactly like it seems like everyone else does. Yeah. But I did say to Daisy last night, actually, randomly, once I've bathed her, I then have to. We call it our little wrestling match. I mean, she doesn't talk, but I'm wrestling her while she's trying to watch TV. She's trying to walk around. I'm trying to towel her down, dry her, get her dressed. And I said to her last night, God, one day you're going to win this wrestling match. That's a scary thought because she's strong. She's really strong. And one day when she wins that wrestling match, I don't think I'll win one again because she's going to be too strong. So again, I think we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But yeah, no, it's not worth thinking about really. Let's get there first.
It's not helpful,
No.
and you can't control it at all.
Yeah.
In these last few years since you had the diagnosis, and you've had to learn a lot, I feel like I've become a bit of a PhD expert on neurodiversity, and I feel like every time do you do annual reviews with Hunter? The EHCP thing, and you do the same. So for anybody that doesn't have the pleasure of lived through an EHCP review, it's a 35-page document written in a non-emotional, very pragmatic, matter-of-fact way, with the sole aim of getting extra funding for the child at school and therefore support. Is a fair summary?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It frustrates the living hell out of me because it's very generic. It's not individualized enough. Yeah. And every time we go through that process, I get really anxious about, so what? What's going to change? Like all of the things that are changing are the things you do with Hunter, the things you do with Daisy, are the things I do with Michalis in terms of that one-to-one extra bit of thing, family time every day. Yeah. And then that's just a vehicle for something, right? So I was having this chat with my husband and I said, it really frustrates me, that process. And he said, think about all the parents that don't have it yet.
Yeah.
At least you have it.
Yeah.
And I thought, do you know what? That's a fantastic way to look at it because there is a lot of parents of children out there that haven't yet got the title, the diagnosis, the what. And they just don't know what's happening next. Yeah. They don't know how to help. Yeah. So ours is coming this Friday, and I think this is probably going to be the first year that I will approach it in a positive manner. And I'll go, yes, how can we enjoy this and not be frustrated by the end of the hour and a half?
Yeah.
So in your journey, in the last few years, what have you learned that you found most useful? Because some things I feel are really frustrating. Like when we got diagnosed, we were just given a folder with some papers in it. This is all about autism. Oh, great.
I remember us having this conversation.
And I was like, this is 50 pages long and you just gave me a title for my son. What do I do with it?
Yeah.
Like, I want to know what's next. What have you found helpful that another parent listening to this, watching this, can say, do you know what, actually, I need to do the same?
For me, it was picking the battles. When that lady told me, just pick your battles. Yeah. That really changed my perception on everything. Yeah, with the food, how he was eating, what he's eating. So be it. If he wants to stim in Tesco's and somebody.
So what?
Exactly.
So what?
Yeah. Yeah, and because there was times where he would, and then kids would be.
And you'd be aware of it.
Yeah, and I'd see them laughing. And this one time we were in just an establishment, just getting some food, and a kid filmed him dancing, and I was like, well, you got to delete that because that's illegal. Yeah,
filmed Hunter having a stimming moment.
Yeah, and I was like, and I was trying to educate this 16-year-old.
Yeah.
And I was like, you can't really do that. So, and
I'm amazed you were that calm about it.
yeah, it would ruin everything then, wouldn't it, if I did. Yeah, plus I'm a big guy, so I'm 21 stone. I don't want to, if I even just shove someone, they might go flying. But I think that's the thing you learn as well when you have a child, let alone a child with a disability, is you have to just try and educate, try, if something happens that towards the child, you got to try and help other people understand. And
that's the only way we can change things, I find.
Yeah.
Like if we tell somebody off, we're mad at them, nothing really is going to change in the world. But if we educate that this brain just works differently.
Exactly.
Let's all step away, take a deep breath. And if it's annoying to you, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. And that's a bit of education that
I think
we do.
Education is key.
Yeah.
And like you said, talking to other parents who have been through this, and and hopefully with our group, the way if people got questions, we could all talk about it and know the right person to spearhead to about, and be able to give that almost like peace of mind to that person, and you don't know who they're going to talk to.
Yeah.
You don't know how that snowball's going to roll.
It travels. Yeah.
And that's just the best way to be. But pick your battles is always the one that's stood out for me.
And for you, Steve? What's helped you and your other half?
I think the best thing that's helped you is just talking about it, like with other people, because that's the only way you learn. Again, there's no instruction book. So when Daisy starts hitting puberty, I'll be in touch with both of you guys, going, right, how do I do this? And
she's a girl, so I don't know how much we can help.
Yeah, but
Konrad and I,
but you'll have
we will only have the boy version.
But you'll have some experiences which I'm just stepping into, and so talking about it's really important. And I remember I was chatting to Konrad earlier, when we started this group, I had to brief the accessibility steering group, which was a lot of people, and I think that was the first time I've spoken about Daisy, and I got really choked up doing this big presentation to lots of people, and I think that's just opened the door for me to talk about it now, and which is helping then in terms of what we're trying to do with accessibility in Merlin, trying to improve it, because we're talking about it. All of us are sharing our stories, and some of them aren't pretty stories, but they're stories, and it's great for us to talk about it. And again, the reception we've had is amazing. It's been really, really good. But if we can drive accessibility and just make one day better, then that for me is the victory. That's what we're doing. So, I think just talking about it has been the important thing.
It's daily therapy, isn't it?
Otherwise, you think you're in it by yourself. Yeah. You get very tunnel vision. You only see inside your four walls at home,
and your challenges and your problems.
And worry about the futures and all these things. Whereas actually, when you talk about it, you get those fears out. You can move on and get past it.
It's then more realistic to manage. I find, because you've just spoken about it. Personally, for me, I found it extremely helpful to focus on his strengths. I was sharing this story yesterday. He had been to the bathroom and he wanted to dry his hands, and there was 2 hand dryers next to each other, and he put a hand under each because that's faster. Now, my neurotypical brain would have never thought of that. So I was stood there like a 36, 37-year-old woman going, I feel thick. Why haven't I ever done this before? Why you thought of this and I haven't? Yeah. And he was like, that's how I dry my hands. Yeah. And he just stepped out. And I thought that the power of your brain working differently, somehow in the future workplace, including it and making it part of the design, the decision making, that would be my dream. Yeah. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Absolutely. And Daisy's been in her special needs school for a couple of years now. Year 1, she was a disaster in school. She just didn't get it, and I don't think she knew why she was going. She was getting nothing out of it. It was just a place for her to go. And then something has worked, something's happened. So now she loves school, and we've seen such amazing development in her. And so just even using like visual aids and stuff
to communicate.
She still doesn't tell us she wants it, and she still makes mistakes, but the teachers told us that one day she came up to them and she had taken one of these visual aid stickers off of the wall, and taking it to the teacher, and it was like the playground symbol.
So she wanted to go play.
So they put her shoes on, took her out, and now at home we've got these visual
You've got
cards with sound tiles as well. So we've put so all she has to do is go up and touch it, and sometimes it's drink, sometimes it's food, sometimes it's outside. Sometimes it's bath time at 1 o'clock, and you can't then tell her no, it's not bath time. So it works and it doesn't work, but it gives us a little bit of a hope for the future. And I think we've got there's things that we can do to improve her life, and we focus on those, and hopefully one day some of them will work.
I love it. We have a lot that we're working on, and we have made an amazing impact already just in the year and a bit that we've been going as an internal Intel group. What would be a real magic wand type moment if we had achieved in, let's say, 12 months' time? What is your vision for the group?
My vision for the group and the way we see if we're being successful and impactful is, are we winning more awards in Merlin than we normally win? And I say that first because it's really important, because we've got to celebrate the good stuff. Yeah. We can't always just say, I said to Konrad earlier, we're not the accessibility police. That's not what we're there for. We're there to just celebrate the really good things and help and support. So I would hope we are we're winning awards. We're funding projects to improve accessibility. Putting changing spaces into our attractions would be a really significant win. We should be designing attractions more inclusively, which again we're doing some work on at the moment, and we'll be sharing that with.
I'm so excited about
with the wider business. Yeah, so we can look at how do we make things more inclusive, but also not stand out. They need to feel part of the experience. They need to feel quite natural. And Sandra says it all the time, but it's it's built in, not bolt on, is what we should be going for.
I love that,
and I think that's 100% right. So I think we'll start doing some things like that. I mean, we're working on a new attraction in Hamburg where we have a laser maze, and we've got these attractions all around the world where we have laser mazes. And I asked a question the other day saying, if a wheelchair user goes into a laser maze, they're just going to trigger every laser as they go around. So it's not accessible. How can we improve that experience? And we've worked with our developer, myself and my team member, to put in a laser maze, which is going to be timed. So the lasers go on for a few seconds, then off for a few seconds. So a wheelchair user can now navigate around that space.
So cool.
And we'll share that with every attraction who's got a laser maze, the software that we can just put in. And then suddenly all of our laser mazes which haven't been accessible are now accessible. So the more we can do things like that,
it's not a small thing.
Yeah. So the more we can do things like that, and the more we can spot opportunities, then we're going to make that big change.
And it's because you have that experience yourself that you think about that customer that could be like Daisy, could be like Hunter, and needs different things.
I think it was asking the question. So again, any advice to any team members is ask the question: how can we make it more accessible? And yes, it can be anything you possibly need. And if you don't have the experience and knowledge that you do need, then reach out to one of us. What we're trying to promote ourselves as a group is we are 100% approachable, and Konrad's working on a way that people will be able to contact us, individuals, groups, team members, whatever it needs to be, where they can contact us and ask us the questions to make that more simple. But we're also a safe space where you can ask the questions that you couldn't ask guests, because it's not right to ask those guests. But you can ask me a question in any way, and I'll give you
and the rest of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we can ask anyone in the group a question, and we'll give you the honest answer to it, and we're not going to judge you for asking the question.
And that's key, isn't it? You're not going to get judged.
That's right, absolutely.
That all the questions are valid, and all the questions have a reason to be asked. Yeah. What do you want to see?
For me, my goal is accessibility digital. So everything. So Neil and Sandra, before I joined, had worked with an agency about accessibility on our websites, and I'd like to have that all done by the end of the year. And I think I'm on target.
Dream big, Konrad. I love it.
So, well, Gardaland's are going to be testing soon, and then we're going to do the People Portal. So I've been chatting with Orion there, and it's going to be interesting because people see the People Portal all the time, and
our website, and when they book their tickets.
Exactly. So that is my goal. And that's going to be part of the excitement stuff, because now that we're thinking about changing background colours on sites, I've started looking at things like, well, if the person's colourblind, how do they see one of our websites? And so I was fortunate enough in the old job that I was able to really research all that and work on that. So I'm just bringing my skills over. But by the end of the year,
I love it. I can't
and
wait
it's
to
on
see
the
it.
podcast, so we know now.
Yeah, it's a commitment.
Yeah, you do.
I'm looking forward to that December website version. I want to thank you both. I told you it wasn't going to be that scary,
No,
was it?
thank
was
you.
brilliant.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us, honestly.
It's been an hour of some soul sharing and some really deep personal stuff, but I think stuff that is really relevant for a lot of people in Merlin and outside of Merlin, because we all have some sort of experience of disability, additional needs, accessibility. And to have a group dedicated to this internally, I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So well done for sharing it. Well done for all of the videos you've created and the TED Talks and all the work that you do in Wales in a market where there isn't a lot, and you kind of started that. And a massive thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you.
Oh, I really appreciate it. It was fun. It was good.
Thank you so much. One last question before you go. If I could have anybody on this podcast and, time, money, no restrictions, who would you like to see on those chairs, on that chair? Who should I invite next?
What a question.
What a question.
Who would you like to see?
From in the business?
Anybody.
Anybody?
Yeah. It could be within the business as well.
I'll pick two then.
Go on then.
So I'd love to see Justin Skinner on here, because when I had my intro when I first joined, I was mesmerised about where he worked before, and he's got a really good passion and really articulate with how he delivers, so that'd be cool. Mm-hmm. Outside of this place, it'd probably have to be Phil Jackson, coach of the Chicago Bulls. Because, he took
we need Scott's magic connections for that.
Exactly, because, he took the Chicago Bulls and that documentary on Netflix. But then people forget he took the Lakers to a three-peat with Shaq, Kobe. I think that would just...
He will have loads of lessons in leadership.
Definitely.
Great suggestions. Who would you like to see?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
From in Merlin? Who would you like to hear from?
I think internally, there's a lady in our internal intel group, Miriam, who's the GM of the Hamburg Dungeon. She's got some amazing stories to tell, and she's doing a great job for the internal intel group. So I think she would be a really good person to speak to and find out how she overcomes some of her challenges, and yet is implementing new things. We had a conversation on one intel group about potentially doing sign language tours in the dungeon, and she's already
only went and done it.
She's doing it. I mean, that's amazing, the fact that she's done that. So I think Miriam would be great. Outside of Merlin, I don't know. I really don't know. Not sure who.
Somebody who inspires you?
Who inspires me? I'm trying to think back to my life. I don't know.
Picard, there you go. Jean-Luc. Patrick Stewart, he'd be good.
You're giving me some really tough names to book, but I'll do my best.
Yeah. No, I don't think you're going to get them. No, I don't know.
It's okay. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. It was amazing.
I hope I didn't make you too emotional.
No, it was really cool.
I
saw your eyes going at once, though, and I was like, stop talking, she's going to cry.
That's good.
But it's okay. That's why we have hair and makeup. Thank you.